Welcome back to the Learning Curve with me, Kenny, where we explore L&D strategies that actually work in this crazy A&I world. Today, we dive into how a community college uses AI to transform courses and training offers in real time, aligned with workforce demand. So, all you L&D professionals out there, listen to this episode. I'm sure there'll be a couple takeaways for you. With me today is Debra McCusker, who leads the A&I programs at Alamance Community College. And recently, she completed a project using A&I labor market analysis to reshape how short-term courses and trainings are updated. Debra, welcome.
Thank you, Kenny. Glad to be here.
Great, fantastic. So before we really dive into this, I have a little bit of an icebreaker that I always like to ask my guests. And the first question today would be, when was the first time you said to yourself, wow, AI really hit that one out of the park?
Well, we have a brand new program that is really has only been active for under an academic year, and it is the Associate in Applied Science in Artificial Intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Okay.
found that our internal expertise was, a bit lacking, and that I would need
Mm-hmm.
an additional faculty member to help bolster our capabilities. And I was
Mm-hmm.
told by my supervisor, well, you need to write up a proposal for adding additional faculty to your staff. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought, when would you like to see this? Oh, by the end of the week. And so I turned to my friend ChatGPT, and
Mm-hmm.
I put in everything that I could think of regarding my program, regarding me, regarding my background, and I asked
Mm-hmm.
the AI to act as my consultant and to help me
Mm-hmm.
write up a proposal for the need of an additional faculty member and how much uh, FTE, that's the magic word in academia,
Mm-hmm.
for a full time equivalent. Uh,
Full-time equivalent. Yeah.
yeah, that this person could bring in to the college. And voila, uh, I had a 9-page report on why an additional faculty member was a very good move and would be a good economic uh, addition for the college. Of course, I had to read this over and make sure there were no hyperbole, and that it
Mm-hmm.
was accurate. And of course, I did have to make some edits and improvements, but it probably cut down the amount of work that I personally would have invested from, days to hours.
Okay, so that was a pretty wow moment for you. So the only level up would have been, I guess, in this case, it would have hit out the universe if it would have given you the funding for it, right? If it would have said you can fund it out of this and this method, right?
Yeah, well, we can hope. Yeah.
Okay, so in this season of the learning curve, we've been talking about a lot of about AI, especially about leadership in an AI world. So that's what we're going to frame the beginning part of this discussion about. And a key element to that is why Deborah's here today, because she did a really, really awesome project. So Deborah, can you give us a brief insight without, maybe telling us too much, because a lot of our conversation will be based on what you did, this little project. I call it little. but I think it's far from that. Not only in how it's done, but the how should I say? Oh, I'm too excited about this. I'll let you take it away, Deborah. Please give us a short summary of the project that you did.
Okay, it was called the AI Labor Market Analyzer, and I hit on the need to do this when I was performing a program review last summer, which department heads do, every summer at the end of an academic year. And I was looking at my data. Usually that's enrollment, retention, and completion information. And a favorite quote from Stephen Covey popped into my head. Begin with the end in mind. And since our goal at the community college is always to prepare people for the workforce, I began to focus my attention on those relevant job postings that these people are going to have to compete to secure. So once labor market data became my focus, I knew I needed more than just a few anecdotal examples to perform any kind of good analysis. And so I found an application programming interface that would allow me to pull hundreds of relevant job postings based on criteria that I provided. And now that you have hundreds and not just a handful, you need to find a way to be efficient and automate. And as soon as we pull together the two things in my mind, analysis and automation, I automatically think artificial intelligence. And that is when I employed prompt engineering and the use of either Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT to perform an analysis so that I could have, a good picture about what the needs were.
Okay, so you immediately made that you said when there was a lot of I forget what juncture you had, but it was a really good statement where that immediately when you said you had a lot of data, and what was the other one that immediately kicked off for you? This is probably a good case for an AI solution.
Right. When you have a need for analysis and large amounts of data are in play, well, first you want to automate, because who has the time to scour through 100, 1,000, 10,000 records, and whose mind is, capable to, handle all of that. So once we're in that kind of situation, I go to, it's got to be artificial intelligence, or, a subset of artificial intelligence, which is machine learning.
Okay, great. So once you figured out that AI can scan and summarize thousands of job postings, what human leadership skills become critical to make sense of that data and lead effectively?
Okay, well, thanks for that question, because I think it's a really good one, and one that's causing some leaders concern. But in this age
Most
of
definitely.
AI integration and AI adoption, human leaders, they should feel, hey, this is freeing me up to invest more of my efforts on what we'll call the wisdom work. So by this, I mean, they can put more effort into all those important skills like contextual judgment, risk assessment, ethical reasoning, and their strategic planning. So leaders are really being afforded more opportunities to use those truly human skills.
Okay, that's sounds really good, and I like a couple things you already said are now for me the catchphrase in that which stuck with me the most is wisdom work. I don't think I've ever heard that one used, and I like that one. I think that one I can make stick. So if you haven't trademarked it, I might use it. Or if you've trademarked it, I'll have to come up with something else. So for let me see how to put this for the L&D leaders out there in a corporate setting. What's the leadership mindset that they should take away from your experience? I think you've alluded to it already, um, but is there like something specific that you would say,
Well,
even more down to like maybe one item or something?
yeah, I have a lot to say about that. Ultimately,
Uh-oh.
ultimately, each leader's goal's got to be to use AI to augment and not replace his or her own judgment. And
Okay, that's a very
today's
good point.
organizations, yeah, they're in a new and perhaps daunting journey in this age of AI adoption. But I want to share with you not something that came out of my own mind, but what I read in a Harvard Business Review article just recently, and I think it paints a really good picture. Um,
Okay.
imagine, yeah, imagine that your business um, is is likened to a challenging winter backcountry expedition. I think we can look as
Okay.
AI is your gear, but it's not the guide. AI provides
Oh,
the
okay.
means to move swiftly, to grasp hold of, to measure, but the expedition's not going to be successful on the gear alone. So, on this expedition, the
Hmm.
guide is there to interpret the surroundings, adjust the route to conditions, set the pace, manage resources, keep up morale. So the best gear doesn't guarantee that you're going to make it to the summit. It's got to be that marriage of gear and guide that's going to ensure the best outcome.
I like that one. That holds a lot of truth. Um, I like the framing of that. And in previous other guests have exhibited the same sentiment in that direction. So I think that's absolutely spot on. We'll see where the journey takes us, because I think there's still a lot of fear involved. People still have that. I think I've used this sentence also more than once. That specter of Skynet, that AI is going to take that type of Skynet character. But I would say in the starting phases here, I think we're far from that.
Yeah, I keep an open mind, and again, always always look at that AI as a tool in your tool chest.
Okay. Okay. So, in this next section, what I'd like to get to is to talk about your AI labor market analyzer in action. So, can you walk me through how the AI scans and interprets real time job postings, and what kind of insights does it reveal that a traditional review misses?
Well, my first step in building the labor market analyzer was again obtaining the appropriate data. So those advertised
Hmm.
job openings, and so I did that by writing a little computer program in Python that interfaced with the job board API and extracted
Hmm.
only those job postings that were relevant to my
Hmm.
graduates, and that were centered around our Research Triangle Park area, which is commuting distance from my community college. So
Hmm.
with now hundreds of records at hand, it became a matter of supplying that data to the AI model and then interacting with that AI with a series of carefully crafted prompts. So prompt engineering. You probably heard that term. Your
Hmm.
guest, your
Yes.
audience probably is, and that's an entire discussion in and of itself. But suffice to say that the process of writing effective prompts for the model is is key, and it is what's
Hmm.
going to um, sort of make or break what kind of results that you get. So, to answer
May I
the
interject a
question
side
about,
question at that?
sure,
The side question I have is you said specific. I think you very well addressed the point in prompts. Now, I've done a little dabbling. Uh, now, do you? This is a question. Do you use another AI to help you generate the prompt for said AI, or do you generate the prompt out of your, like just writing it down, or do you also have AI support you in that part of the process?
well, there are several frameworks out there, and
Hmm.
we can talk about some of those. But one of them is has the acronym of RICE, and that
Hmm.
is the role, the instructions, the context, and
Hmm.
examples. So
Okay.
really, writing a good prompt is just a matter of being very thorough, very
Okay.
yeah. It's almost like a data dump, and those that don't get good results from AI are probably because they're putting in like a one sentence, you know, uh, prompt that the
Hmm.
AI, it takes too many liberties in trying to build an answer because you've
Hmm.
really opened the floodgates of creativity for the AI. It says, well, you gave me one sentence,
Okay.
I'm just going to go for it. But if you sort of build that box that says, and I do want this, but I don't want that, and it
Hmm.
must adhere to these federal requirements or state requirements,
Hmm.
then the more context that you can provide to the AI, the better the result will be.
Okay. Great. Thanks for that interjection question, because that was just I was just curious because, like I said, I dabbled a little bit in AI, and that was one of the keys that I also learned, was that basically the prompting is very important. And I found myself then using another AI to help me create the prompt. Because I thought it was better, but I wasn't quite sure. So you having applied it into a much better, more broader scale and commercial scale, so to say, I just wanted to just get a feel for that. Also for our listening audience, that they have an idea, because I think some of the skills that you already mentioned will probably be hard to replicate for our listening audience. But back to the question. So, what kinds of insights did this data reveal that your traditional review missed? Did you see a gap there or a difference?
Yeah, to answer that question about insights revealed, um, the labor market analyzer was able to really quickly identify the top skills being sought, and
Hmm.
it's not that eventually we might have been able to see that, but the speed at which
Hmm.
the analyzer identified it is really, the advantage, the win.
Hmm.
It also ordered those skills in priority order. So that was a real benefit.
Wow.
And the analyzer also identified the most advertised job titles, with
Hmm.
network monitoring analyst, service desk technician one, and workstation specialist being among the most common. So, with that information in
Hmm.
hand, we can then help direct students in developing their cover letters and their elevator speeches,
Hmm.
and then their
Okay.
overall presentation in the marketplace.
Okay. Okay, but it also helps you with your curriculum, right? In designing courses, because you kind of like reverse engineered. You kind of took like um, market demands, analyzed those, and said, okay, once, like you just said, you're giving it to your students that are graduating to help them do a better decision or make a better decision on what to apply for. But also, I believe we talked about you applying this to your actual courses or how you create courses. And in the discussion we had prior to our recording, um, you found that cloud computing and communication were equally critical skills. And my question is, how do you translate that or that into changes in course offerings or training content?
Good question. Good question. The results from the labor market analyzers pilot implementation, they're very new, but the department
Hmm.
is already using these results to update our existing courses to
Hmm.
increase cloud concept knowledge. We're pulling in elements from Cisco, Azure, and AWS,
Hmm.
and we've already been emphasizing written and oral communications throughout our programs of study, but still, we're going to continue to add wraparound projects that require the student to not only solve a problem, but to also present those results clearly and professionally.
Okay. Okay. It's always your example is another one of those which I think is one of the most fascinating aspects about AI is how quickly it allows you to go from an idea to actually getting things done, to getting getting traction with the idea and implementing and getting actionable results or results that you're actually that you're working with. I mean, you said pilot project, and for a pilot project to already have those kind of results, um, like I said, I don't know what time span you've covered in creating all this, but still, um, you know back in the day it would have been like, you got to go to this committee, you got to talk to this, you got to do this, you got to do this, and aggregating all this data. And by the time you finish with this whole process, like you said, the market might have changed already for all we know. So I think that's absolutely fascinating how you could react to that. So maybe can you share one specific story where this AI enabled insight helped you directly influence or hasten a course or short term training update?
Okay. So, as I said, the results are a bit fresh, but the insights they've made it clear to us that we must include cloud and cloud related skills in our program. And we are
Hmm.
right now transitioning our Windows Server Administration course to a curriculum aligned with the CompTIA Windows Server Hyper-V learning outcomes.
Hmm.
And since the Hyper-V serves as the foundational virtualization technology behind Microsoft's cloud ecosystem, um, possessing those skills will no doubt enhance our students' marketability. So that's just one specific story.
Fantastic. I think it's from the sound of it, it's already an extreme win, and I love the approach, and I think when L&D professionals hear this, they'll be much more um, aware of how their market needs are already being addressed at an early point, because you're out there scrambling to get people, and you are offering already a way into training those people. So when they finish your community college, they'll have the opportunity to get hired by those companies looking exactly for those positions. So I find that fascinating, because just from hearing it for the first time, I think the this links, your community college and the L&D industry gets a much closer link than it ever has before. Or
Yeah, I believe you're right. And at the community college, we are transitioning to what we call the one college model, which is to
Mhm.
have a better marriage between our curriculum programs, our workforce programs, corporate education programs, so that we can um, both share knowledge and have students that maybe transition from one area to another as they go through their career journey.
Fascinating, Deborah, and you're all at the precipice of all this, leading the way. Fantastic. Again, I appreciate you taking the time for this podcast and sharing your knowledge and your insights on this. So, one of the other topics or categories that's also relevant in this whole discussion is um, leadership and the judgment in balancing AI data. So, we in the season, we've often come to the point where we say AI does a certain amount of work, but the wisdom part or the judgment part and direction still is something that should be the human component. We can call it the human component, or should be um, yeah, the expert should be the human in this case. So um, AI generates massive amounts of data. And how do you avoid an overload and maintain clarity? Um, and further, what leadership practices help balance AI signals with human insight?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a deep one.
That's a
Um,
doozy.
yeah. So large language models such as ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, the list keeps going on and
Hmm.
on. They're all indeed examples of what we call generative AI tools. So they are generating data, as you mentioned.
Hmm.
But really, what they're doing is reformulating an existing corpus of knowledge. Um, so
Ah, okay.
we can break down artificial intelligence use cases into, I think, four categories, and they've been
Hmm.
published in various articles. There's descriptive AI, diagnostic AI, predictive AI, and prescriptive AI. So I'll just do a real brief on each one. Descriptive is what it sounds like. You're summarizing the state of things. So you can ask
Hmm.
the AI model, take this, 12 documents and write for me a one-page executive summary of the um, the knowledge. So that would be descriptive AI.
Hmm.
Diagnostic would be help me discern what went wrong, what went awry. Help me
Hmm.
find the outliers and the anomalies. And in that case,
Hmm.
again, you're working from some existing corpus of knowledge, and you're asking the AI to help you find, um, the 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 disjointed elements of that
Hmm.
information. And then predictive, that might be the most like worrisome one. Help me see what comes next. So in
Okay.
in older IT technologies, we used the term deterministic. So we had
Hmm.
A, B, C, D, and E, and a nice little flow chart and a result. Where AI
Hmm.
is probabilistic. So with an
Hmm.
AI model, it's not so flowchart esque. It's not
Hmm.
give me this input and I get this output. You might give the same inputs and get a different answer. In fact, you give the same prompt to AI 5 times, you're gonna get 5 answers, or five
Hmm.
somewhat different formulations. So the probability is a really big aspect of artificial intelligence, and I would say that you know anytime you're asking for some kind of predictive analytics or predictive outcome, it's always good to go back and check your data, experiment, uh, work through it, and of course that's where the corporate leaders need to use those human skills and background knowledge about the situation um, to ferret out any we call hallucinations or um,
Hmm.
parts that break down. But then the fourth type of AI is prescriptive, and that's when we ask the AI to assist us to make some kind of recommendation on the best course of action or help with decision support. And that's really
Hmm.
what I did with the AI market analyzer. It was take all this data and then, help me make some kind of judgments about what that labor market means. Uh,
Okay.
so in all
Okay.
cases,
So.
yeah, I would say in all cases, it's important to regard the AI as an assistant and not an
Mhm.
infallible oracle.
Okay, so that kind of brings us back to the beginning in the discussion when you said view AI as a tool. So as such, you can't. It's not a uh, fully automated thing that you can never check on, and that you can have with minimal guidelines expect that the outcome will be exactly what you think. Rather, you have to double check on those things. So that would be the practice that you would probably say is the most effective or most relevant, is to verify it, check it, and see if it's working within the parameters that you basically came up with and that you thought of. Was there ever a case where in your um, when you're reviewing the data, where you pushed back or adjusted on the AI driven recommendations based on your judgment?
Absolutely. The chatbot or AI agent only generates its summaries, predictions, or recommendations based on the
Hmm.
context, the guidelines, and the source material given to it. So, in the same
Hmm.
way, we humans might need to ask a colleague, can you repeat that question? Or can you reframe the argument for me? I've had to
Hmm.
reject or deflect a response from AI, go back and strengthen my prompt, and then go at it again.
Okay. Has your in your analysis, did you have like a an outlier where you're like, this can't be true? I mean, just for sake of argument, maybe it said, like knitting was one of the things or skills that you needed to have because it allows you abstract something or another. I don't know. Did it give you in the did it come up with some result where you were like, wow?
In this particular case, I'll have to say no. And the reason is that,
Because your prompting was too good, huh?
yeah, well, I would say
Your prompting was
for
too
this
good.
particular problem, the constraints were fairly tight, and
Hmm.
the data was um, fairly particular. I was not asking the AI to go
Hmm.
out to the entire internet and just find everything for me. I narrowed it
Hmm.
down uh, before we started really using the AI for analysis. So I would have to
Hmm.
say, with the labor market analyzer, I basically reduced my possibilities for those kind of um, hallucinations.
Okay. Well, one more question along that line. Do you think there be would you expect a change if you were to expand your tool because you had a defined radius, right? Would you expect it to be different if you expanded it to like a US wide parameter?
Yes, I would expect differences, and and those
Well,
then there would be maybe
sorry.
cautionary notes. Go ahead.
Hmm. Maybe uh, you were I jumped in too early, I think, in interrupting you. So, um, uh, I mean, do you think that right now, from what I understand, the quality of your data or the output of what you have, you would say is good to superior? Somewhere that's a pretty big range, but a very good output, right? So the question is, would you expect that the quality of your output, let me narrow it down to that. Would you expect your quality to decrease if you decrease the search parameter?
Well, I would say if I would have used as my epicenter Newark, New Jersey, rather than
Hmm.
Raleigh, North Carolina, I may be getting different
Hmm.
results just based on the climate in that particular area in the Northeast. There might be
Hmm.
more need for database analysts, or there might be
Okay.
uh, you know just a whole different complexion in the market. I don't know the answer to
Okay.
that because I haven't researched it, but I would say that care must be taken when we choose our data, to
Hmm.
understand that our results are somewhat specific to that locale.
Okay. That sounds good. Thanks for indulging me in that question there. So another critical element that we want to talk about is the fact that um, we're talking about leadership and what it requires for leadership, AI in leadership. But another thing that I think we need to touch on, or touch on maybe a little bit more specifically, is then the building of soft skills alongside tech. So your data showed that communication ranks just as high as cloud computing in demand. How do you build that dual focus into your courses and assessments?
Well, then I go back to uh, the fact that many of our assignments are not just question and answer or solve this networking problem, configure switches,
Hmm.
but to have the students do a more full-fledged project where they create a 2-minute video as if they were going to explain their results to their supervisor in the workplace.
Okay.
And in that way, they need to distill the information down to um, understandable nuggets. So they get some skills
Hmm.
with uh, assessing their audience and building
Hmm.
their communication for uh, for that, different knowledge sets for, um,
Okay.
the boardroom versus, the a grouping meeting of their peers.
Okay. Okay. So, do you have so you already do you have a practical exercise or assignment that is it just this study group, or do you have anything else that you can recommend in that vein?
Well, I mean, we have a variety of different assignments across, you know, 10, 12, 18
Well, let me
different courses. So, uh, uh,
okay, let me expand this as a takeaway for our learning development. So, how would you say that a corporate learning team could, when you just explained the approach in general, what would you recommend to them if they want to steal this combination of soft and technical skills? How would you? What recommendation would you have for them if they want to implement this approach in their corporate setting?
okay, I'd say for a face to face or, a synchronous online meetings, small group problem solving works really well. And I, I often use a system that's acronymed TAPS, TAPPS, think aloud,
Hmm.
peer problem solving, or some people say pair problem solving, depends on if you have just two people in a group or you have a larger group, where we assign
Hmm.
roles, to each student. You're the explainer, you're the questioner, maybe you're the antagonist and somebody's the
Hmm.
recorder perhaps. And then they work through the problem for 5 or 10 minutes. And at the end of the time, one representative from the group is charged with um, presenting the results. So that
Hmm.
type of scenario would work great for corporate training as well. It encourages people to collaborate, builds team building, puts a little bit of time management element into the mix. If you give them just 10 minutes to be working on the problem, they have to come to a conclusion within that time period. And so, as along with the technical problem solving, they have some negotiation
Hmm.
skills and presentation skills to marry with that.
Okay, I hope everyone was listening to that. If not, you can just rewind and listen to it again, because that was a lot to take up in one. Moving on, we've talked about all the positives, but of course, with every positive, there's also a counter to that. So, one of the things I'd like to address is the idea of like risks and possibly the idea of ethics. So, when AI enablement breaks down, so to say. So, where has AI driven labor market alignment fallen short or created challenges in your context?
Well, again, I think we're maybe a little early in my process um, to see any of its frailties. They haven't raised
Hmm.
their ugly heads yet, but my level of confidence in its advantages over our traditional academic program management is it's fairly high.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not here to say that shortcomings will never emerge, but you know,
Hmm.
for this particular use case, as I mentioned before, because it's um, it's in a very narrow corridor, um, and the data driving the prescriptive AI was pretty well defined. Um, I don't have a lot to say about those particular frailties. But I get your point. I get your
Hmm.
point that there's always going to be the need for oversight. And
Hmm.
can something slip through? Of course, because it's artificial, right? that's the uh,
Hmm.
that's part of the name, artificial intelligence. So I'd say
Okay.
that the level of confidence in the results produced by any AI bot or agent is going to be directly related to the quality of the prompt engineering driving the model. So the
Okay.
more well defined, uh, again, back to that acronym that I had mentioned,
Hmm.
RICE, role, instructions,
Hmm.
context, and examples. The more well defined
Hmm.
each one of those are, then the more on target your results are going to be.
Okay, so that kind of brings us to full circle, because I would have reframed. I had one more question that I had set up in my mind, which would have been then: um, are there any risks or unintended consequences that learning leaders need to watch for when relying heavily on AI? But I think you pretty much answered that. That you'll simply have to keep an eye out for. Of course, when you purchase something, you can't see how well the prompt is. But
Mhm.
I guess when you're in, like you have been able to create your own tool, which in the age of AI is something that's also very special, is that individuals are able to um, create that such a tool. You're at the high end of it, I would say, since you're very knowledgeable about that. But there's a certain amount, I guess, learning by doing that you can also execute, right? What they call, I guess, that would fall into the category of vibe coding, because you mentioned that you actually programmed in Python, correct? So, but I believe, to my knowledge, there's also tools that would enable you to do such coding, right, without having explicit knowledge of it, right?
There are,
Okay,
and
so
you can ask, write me something in C++ plus plus or C sharp or Java.
okay, so there's much more accessibility. You, of course, like I said, from the nature of what you do, have a leg up on that, since you're very deep into the material. But I still find it fascinating, like I said, time and time again, how quickly your concept actually came to fruition, and how quickly you've have actionable results off that. Absolutely fascinating. So hopefully that'll be a good example for all our listeners out there on how to go from an idea to an actionable item, leveraging AI. So last category is, we're going to go, or we have two more things, that areas that I want to discuss, and that the one I call Steal for Monday. So we're recording this on a Thursday, so it's going to be a little bit, but the idea is the same. Is if you had something that like uh, here's your recommendation from Deborah. So, what's one weekly habit or facilitation move you use that would translate well to corporate programs?
Hmm, that's a good question. Um, I think anytime the corporate leader or trainer can
Hmm.
include teamwork or breakout activities, this is going to enhance the learning experience. So I go back to
Hmm.
that TAPS approach, TAPPS,
Hmm.
and that could be applied to corporate training as well as the academic classroom. Um, Now,
Hmm.
some might say, but what do I do? What? Yeah, that's a great concept, but you know, how do I do it? And I'd say, well,
Hmm.
get AI to help you. Use that RICE acronym. I'm a corporate trainer.
Hmm.
I'm delivering a course on, fill in the blank. And here's all my instructions for uh, perhaps the course outline, the learning objectives, as much as you can provide, uh, along with the context. And then AI works really well when you provide an example. So,
Okay.
the way I would approach that is, again, you can go back to the internet, or they can contact me and I can give an example for a TAPS assignment, and you can provide the AI. Here's a TAPS assignment about network engineering, but I want to do an assignment about corporate leadership. Okay, uh, help me come up with a team activity, and you'd be surprised. Help me come up with 5 team activities. AI loves to be helpful. It wants to be your best bud, and so that's what I would say. That I would recommend these L&D leaders to just give it a try. Don't be afraid. Um, AI doesn't bite, and have fun with it.
Fantastic. Okay, so here we'll get to the final prompt to my agentic AI. In this case, I gave it a name. In this case, I call it Debra. So, as you explained, Deborah, there was I think you called it predictive, right? One of the AI models, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
under what? Okay, so and my prompt would be this: as leader of a college of the AI department, um, what would be, in your opinion, 5 years from now, which leadership or learning skill would you bet on will remain essential in an AI driven training world?
Well, as AI increasingly handles the data analysis and routine training tasks, it's going to
Hmm.
be those human-centric abilities like understanding team morale, maintaining
Hmm.
trust, fostering resilience. That's going to define leadership. And I would say that leaders, they have to maintain um, a sense of curiosity. They have to keep that growth
Hmm.
oriented mindset. Those are going to be the essential skills as we move through this process.
Okay, fantastic. Deborah, I think this brings us to the beginning. I think you hit it out of the park. So thank you very, very much. It's been a joy talking to you. I personally have learned a lot. In fact, I've learned so much that I'll probably have to listen to the episode again, because that was just too much intake. So I'll have to parsec everything that you said and go through it again. So thank you very much. For all the people out there, for all the listeners that want to get in contact to you or want to connect to you, how can they do that?
Well, they can look me up on the Alamance County Community College website, which is www.alamancecc.edu. And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom left, there's an employee directory, and you can look up Debra McCusker.
Fantastic. And then you can get in touch with maybe some of your questions or ideas, or maybe just if you're an L&D professional that's looking to cooperate closer with community college, then maybe Debra is the person to contact, or if not, I'm sure Debra can point you in the right direction. So Debra, again, thank you very much for being part of this podcast. Thank you for sharing all that information. And finally, I say that's how you make AI a true AI a true partner in shaping and learning for tomorrow's workforce. Thanks so much again, Debra. Keep sharing and keep pushing the curve.
Thanks
Bye
for
till
having
next
me.
time.
Thanks.
Thank you. The Learning Curve with Kenny is presented to you by Share IMC, one of the leading providers of digital learning solutions. Make sure not to miss any of our seasonal content by subscribing in the podcast app of your choice.